it was kept secret for 22 years. The video of the excavations in the Sioua Oasis by Liana Souvaltzi. For the first time, this unknown video from the excavations of Greek archaeologist Liana Souvaltzi in the Sioua Oasis of Egypt was kept in obscurity for 22 whole years. The founding Macedonian party of Hellenism discovered it in the archives of the AP and brings it to light in order to understand, among others, the constant and huge crimes against the Greekness of Macedonia and, of course, of Alexander the Great himself, who unfortunately some in Greece is fighting him at every step, at every effort, at every honest and conscientious archaeologist, so that the sun, the glow, and the enormous power of the united and sister Hellenism will not be seen again. Now, to lose the soul of our nation, the glorious, unique, and majestic history of Greece. Let's take this from the beginning. In January 29, 1995, Egyptian announcement for finding the tomb of Alexander the Great in Egypt. On January 29, 1995, following an on-site visit by Egyptian experts to the excavations of Liana Souvaltzi in El Maraki of the Sioua Oasis, Sioua, assessment of the findings, study of the inscriptions, but also of the consent of the Egyptian Ministry of Culture, the Secretary General of the Egyptian Organization of Antiquities, Professor Abd el-Kalim Nur el-Din, announced with warmth and emotion, officially to the whole world, the finding of the tomb of Alexander the Great. The announcement makes lightning around the world. It's reported in all major international media, and only a few circles in Athens who had the great Greek archaeologist as a coastal, where anyone were annoyed by their smallness and microcosm, by its great achievement, which Egypt itself officially announced. While the excavation had not received the slightest financial support or moral support from the Greek nation, but it was a private endeavor, self-financed by Liana, the archaeologist herself, and her husband Manu Souvaltzi, two lonely and stubborn desert archaeologist volunteers. A few days later, February 2nd, 1995, arrival of the international media. TV crews of AP news agency arrived in the Oasis, taking the first pictures and statements of Liana Souvaltzi, they were never played in Greece. It was later said confidentially by the then foreign minister, the national consciousness of the Greek people should not rise, for some odd reason. Then a few days later, February 5th, 1995, arrival of the Ministry of Athens. Athens, alarmed by the Egyptian announcement and international news of discovery of Alexander the Great's tomb by Souvaltzi, immediately sends on the spot people of the elite of the Ministry of Culture, Thanos Mikroutsikos. Now, unfortunately for her, the archaeologist, this custody is recorded on the video as she arrives by bus to the Siwa Oasis Sunday, February 5th, 1995, and examines the findings to finally cancel them, as is well known. Kindly support my Patreon account since YouTube has again demonetized my YouTube channel. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below. And just as it happened with the discoveries of Katerina Peristeri in Amphipolis of the Amphipolis tomb, that the same enemies of Hellenism of the famous Macedonia and Alexander the Great made conspiratorial, within half an hour, Roman findings that shocked the new international and international public opinion and saving wave of tourism to Greece in a time of great economic crisis. Now, the sign of Greekness, in the video, February 1995, which was never shown in Greece for obvious reasons and was retrieved from the AP archives by the Macedonian Party of Hellenism, shows not only the categorical statements of the wronged and persecuted Greek archaeologists for decades to find the tomb of Alexander the Great, not only the arrival of the counselors, but also the shocking findings of Sioua, such as lintels, columns, fronts, inscriptions, but also the characteristic Greek triglyph, 72 centimeters high, which was generally placed in ancient Greek temples, but also especially in royal Macedonian tombs that also had a sacred character, such as the tomb of Philip in Aea. Now, thanks to these triglyphs, the monument immediately proves to be Greek. Now, the lions and the prisons, the two lions that guarded the entrance of the burial monument, are also shown on the screen, which shows that they were guarding a royal monument, because the lions are symbols of kings, and the monuments guarded by lions are usually tombs. The Otheros, lions guarded Alexander the Great. Here it's worth adding an amazing detail mentioned by the historian Diodorus of Sicily. He lived between 1990 BC and up to 30 AD. Now, when described, from 90 BC to 30 BC, he was 60 years old when he died. Now, he described the luxurious and imposing chariot of Alexander the Great, which transported his body from Babylon to Egypt, that, quote, in spite of those who came to the archers, they entered into the gold-plated lions, giving money to those who entered, end quote. This is from Diodorus of Sicily, 28 verse 1. That is, in front of the entrance of the ark of the chariot, there where the golden sarcophagus of Alexander the Great was located, there were golden lions that looked intently like dragons who were about to enter. In other words, they were the lions as kings of animals, the guards of the great and invincible, but now dead, famous, and cosmopolitan king of the Greeks, Alexander the Great. It's exactly what the two similar lions of Sioua seemed to be doing. They were breeding the dead king. They were guarding the dead king. Either he managed or he did not manage to be buried there. Now, underground openings, stoes, as they're called, lobbies. The video also reveals the entrance of an underground gallery, which the AP described as a secret chamber, quote unquote, that has not yet been explored. There was a gold mine under the monument, while the archaeologist believes the burial chamber must have been underground and still is unharmed. And then they found inscriptions in the Greek language. In the unknown video that was taken 22 whole years ago, you can also see the famous inscriptions found during the excavations in El Maraki of Siwa. They were all written in Greek. It was kept a secret for 22 years. The video of the excavations in the Sioua Oasis by Liana Souvaltzi, the first inscription says it was kept secret for 22 years. The inscription A says, according to Souvaltzi, refers to Alexander Almonos Ra. Remember that the Egyptians said that he was the son of a pharaoh, and they gave him that crown with the ram's horns on his head. So yes, he was referred to by the Egyptians Alexander Almonos Ra, and is probably a copy of the protege, an old inscription of Ptolemy, who is said to have carried Alexander there light as a small leather shield. This copy bears the discreet micrograph signature of the copyist, who was the Roman Empire Trajan himself, from 98 to 117 AD, the most popular and brilliant of the Roman period, Nero of Trajan, the Reverend German. Now, the inscription of the Trajan is estimated to have been made in order to save the content, the text of Ptolemy's old general of Egypt, and later its king. Remember, Ptolemy was one of Alexander the Great's generals, and and his line, of course, even Cleopatra that we know, Antony and Cleopatra and the Caesar thing. Well, she was a descendant of Ptolemy, who inherited Egypt as part of the Alexander the Great's empire that was given to him. He was known as Ptolemy of Lagos, or some in the region of present-day India and Pakistan, in the land of Oxydaris and the Mauls, saved Alexander. Some, however, hinted without proof that Ptolemy with whom Alexander, they knew each other from when they were children. They were used to go to school together. As with all the partners, was a son of Philip II and half brother of Alexander the Great, and at the age of 11 years older, the son of Olympias. Now, the second inscription is a personal tribute of Trajan and records his name from the beginning and in capital letters, stating that he rebuilt the sanctuary in honor of the eternal Zeus, quote unquote, rhombus and symbol of Ammon with the disk of the sun and two snakes. It was kept a secret for 22 years. The question is, what made a powerful Roman emperor reach the depths of the desert, 560 kilometers from Cairo, and dedicate inscriptions to such a distant but clearly Greek monument? And much more, what was it that made him, in essence, dictate him to dedicate inscriptions in Greek and not in Latin, as would be natural? And finally, which important Greek personality was associated with Ammonius, as the Sioua Oasis was formerly called, and the one who arrived at 331 BC, which was only Alexander the Great, of course, up there and took an oracle that he was the son of Ammon Zeus, from the famous oracle who had even expressed the intention to be buried there one day as the son of Ammon, a personality that Trajan admired. Of course, that was Alexander the Great. It was kept a secret for 22 years. Now, a piece of the head of the great lion, like that of Chaeronea and Amphipolis, found in the excavation by Liana Souvaltzi, who could be guarding there at the far end of the Egyptian desert by the lions that Souvaltzi found. 2 medium-sized lions at the entrance, many lion heads to prevent the decoration, but also a fragment of the face of a great lion like there is in the Amphipolis tomb outside of Salonika in northern Greece, which is supposed to have been the burial signal that dominated the area of the oasis and was seen from afar, placed on a small pyramid pedestal, because Alexander was a Greek king, but at the same time the legal and only and last pharaoh of Egypt, who should normally be buried in a pyramid. It was kept a secret for 22 years. Now, a view of the sacred burial monument of Siwa with blue triglyphs, lion deterrents on the fronts, lion guards on the corners, and a large royal lion guard on a pedestal pyramid, which may have meant that King Alexander was also pharaoh of Egypt at the same time. The Greek historian Diodorus, as we said, who lived for 3 years in Egypt looking for people, places, and events, clearly writes that the partners under Perdiccas decided to bury the people that succeeded Alexander the Great, decided to bury Alexander in Ammon, that is in the oasis of Siwa, where it was the Ammonio, where the sanctuary of Ammon Zeus was, that Alexander visited earlier, before he started his campaign of conquest to the east, entrusting the construction of a chariot that would transport his body there to Philip Aridius, half-brother of Alexander the Great, but mentally appointed a new king, curated by Perdiccas. Now, the digital representation of the Siwa monument, the findings of the 2 lions, guards of the entrance can be seen, and it was done with the entrance of the Ark of the Chariot. And Diodorus mentions that Ptolemy, taking the body from Perdiccas somewhere in the border with Syria, instead of the oasis of Siwa and Ammon, went and finally buried for a time being Alexander the Great in Alexandria of Egypt. Now, what do all these things mean? That in order for the burial procession from Babylon to Egypt to begin after almost 2 years, for Alexander to be buried in Ammonia, that is the temple of the area of Ammon Zeus, that is the Sioua Oasis, his tomb should have been completed there as well. Otherwise, it would not have made sense to start the procession to the tomb in 321 BC if the tomb had not been built. It was built, obviously, and that tomb must logically be the one excavated by Liana Souvaltzi, and it's huge. It's 51 meters long and 10.25 meters wide, bigger than the tomb of Amphipolis that was recently found, a tomb with a corridor of ceremonies of 31.32 meters for the use of the temple, and with a 3-chamber, as estimated, burial chamber measuring about 20 by 10 meters. Now, we wrote that Trajan, the Roman, like his successor Hadrian, was an admirer of Alexander the Great and was saddened that he could not complete his work due to old age with a campaign in India, while in 215 AD, 2 years before his death, he destroyed much of Alexandria due to the Jewish uprising, which was mainly called to restore the Philhellene Hadrian, even limiting the area of the city. Out of gratitude and admiration for Trajan, he kept this name next to his own. Commitment to continue the excavations. If Alexander was buried more or less in the Sioua Oasis, in this area of Ammon Zeus, and in general the fully documented identity of the monument, we will only find out if the excavations by Liana Souvaltzi, the archaeologist, continue intensively. Excavations that were stopped in 1996 with the intervention of the Greek government of Semitis, the persecutor of Christian Orthodoxy and the identity of the Greeks. Now, the Macedonian party of Hellenism is under commitment not only for their immediate continuation of the excavations, not only for a public apology to the Liana Souvaltzi, the archaeologist, but also for full coverage of all the expenses of the mission and its excavations, which will be under the official auspices and proud seal of the reborn Greek Republic. Now, even if one of the tombs of Alexander is not there, even if it has nothing to do with it, the excavations must be made in order to fully uncover the largest Greek monument of the desert and of Egypt itself, at least those that have so far been discovered. So the Macedonian party committed to the parallel feverish continuation of the excavations. Now the great, I'll leave you a link for the video if you want to see the video of this finding. It's about 5 minutes long. You'll be able to understand it because it's in English, and she explains that they are very sure, and the Egyptian archaeologists also confirmed it is Alexander the Great's tomb. They even have the huge lion heads that you can see. It's about 5 minutes. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. I'll leave a link below for you. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support.